My name is Buti Tlhagale. I'm the Archbishop Emeritus of the Diocese of Johannesburg. It's never clear when somebody is in a serious condition of illness, whether that person will live or die. It wasn't always clear with regard to Pope Francis, having stayed in hospital for such a long time. But alas, he gave in and died. And this was already before he died, there was so much coverage about him on television and radio, all different kinds of media. And even today, he is still being covered because I think he was a special leader, a special person, not only in the church, in the Catholic Church, but throughout the world for his interventions, especially on questions of peace. He was a recognized moral voice in the world itself. And that is what he had been promoting all along, given the wars we have in the world, especially of late, the wars in Nigeria versus Kiev or in Sudan. And so that voice is lost, and therefore somebody who was appreciated for promoting for promoting peace amongst the nations. Pope Francis was also well known for some people argue that he did not change anything with regard to the doctrine of the church or policies of the church. No, I don't think there was any palpable need for changing the laws of the church. But what he did is he changed the atmosphere, the environment within the church. And that is why he is known for speaking out about mercy. Mercy, recognition of the dignity of other persons, empathy, and love generally. And that he was very strong on that, on building human communities. So mercy was one of his beloved themes. It was that kind-heartedness which he himself manifested as he went around visiting different communities in the world. Thirdly, he has become well known for advocating that foreigners, people not born in the country where they end up, refugees, to be recognized as human beings and to be treated as such. Refugees were very close, and migrants were very close to his heart. In fact, if Bishop Scalabrini, if he were not called the father of migrants, I would say Pope Francis would actually be called the father of migrants, because migrants were and refugees were very close to his heart. And symbolically, in front of St. Peter's Square, there's a beautiful monumental statue of migrants that was set up to remind the world that refugees are also human beings, and that boundaries of countries should not be so tight as to exclude them, because they too are children of God. So again, promoting mercy and love in the world of mercy, to be able to receive people come from other countries, because migrants were dying on the seas, dying, their boats capsizing, all of them rushing towards Europe in search of a better living. And at the time when countries were turning their backs against refugees and migrants, so that today that message of his, of welcoming and taking care of refugees, hopefully will continue to ring in men's hearts. The Pope was also known for being kind in applying the laws of the church. For example, the question of divorcees and people wanting to separate because of problems within families. And he had actually instructed that those who do divorce at times, their cases should be looked at with leniency, with kindness, and that ordinary people who find themselves in such difficulties should not be punished further by the way as if we have an inquisition about their lives and wanting to blame them for situations they find themselves in. And so he advocated that bishops should assist in facilitating some of these cases. And that, in a sense, has brought about at least a merciful, a kind way, a compassionate way of dealing with cases of people who have divorced, who want to enter into new relationships. And this all because of his own kind-heartedness and understanding of human beings. The Pope, he has taught the church, the leaders within the church, and hopefully leaders outside the church, the value of simplicity and not to be hankering after wealth, after displaying unnecessary love for earthly material things. He himself is always driven around in a small car, is abundant, a lavish style of living, characterizing leaders in positions of power. He has moved away from the papal palace to stay in the guest house at Santa Marta. Again, this simplicity, teaching by example. And as much as he goes to prisons, for example, during Easter time, to wash the feet of prisoners, and showing solidarity with ordinary people. And in that way, becoming a model, an example to all Catholics and hopefully to men and women of goodwill, that for those who are Christians, these are the virtues, these are the values we should all embrace. For these reasons, I think Pope Francis will be dearly missed. He took for himself the name of Francis, Saint Francis, a poor friar who encouraged people to live a simple lifestyle. And so he embodies then the spirit of Saint Francis, and hopefully his own spirit, his own lifestyle, his own whatever, the various ways in which he was teaching the gospel of Christ, that becomes his lifelong legacy. And so he dies on an Easter Monday. Hopefully, we pray that he rise with Christ from his death to be embraced by God the Father in his kingdom. Last point perhaps I should mention, certainly for Catholics, that Mary was very dear to him. So too, if one thinks about Pope John Paul II, who was very close to Mary in his own spirituality. Pope Francis, who was asked to be buried at Maria Maggiore, very close to Mary, again teaching Catholics to acknowledge and beware of the power of Mary to intercede on our behalf.